Ideas All Day podcast, where we, somewhat kind of experts, but not really, discuss our ideas and then put them into piles, including the bad ideas pile, the ideas pile, and the good ideas pile. Our topic for today is ideas on children's book. So let's do some intros. Ajax, why don't you tell us your favorite children's book?
Gladly, Alex. Thank you. I have two favorite children's books. One of them is called Mama Don't Allow, and it was a story that was on the show Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton. I love that book. And my second favorite book is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Thank you for already not doing what you're told. I said one book. Didn't ask for two.
Didn't say one.
I said your favorite, not favorites.
Fine.
Favorites.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Thank you very much.
Goosebumps. Done.
Ooh, that's a series. That's multiple books. Again, you're really screwing with the format here. All right, Kate, you're up next. Please don't disappoint me with this.
So my top 15 favorite children's books
That's
of all
it.
time.
We're done.
As boring and picturesque sounding as it is, I had a copy of a children's Bible that my dad used to read me Bible stories from every night before bed. So I have a lot of fond memories of that being one of my favorite childhood books. But one of my classic favorite childhood books was Mrs. Nelson is Missing. And that was the first time there was ever I've ever experienced a twist in a story. So Miss Nelson is Missing. Favorite childhood book. And Alex, how about you? What's yours?
Kate, thanks for asking. And to rip right off of what Ajax said incorrectly, one of my favorites, actually probably the one I still think about once in a while today, is a Goosebumps book. And I believe it was called The Ghost Next Door. I could be getting this wrong, but it's about the kid who believes his neighbor, his childhood friend neighbor, is a ghost. But they're again, with Kate too, strange enough, there's a twist. Turns out he was the ghost the whole time.
Spoiler
Remember
alert.
that book?
Yeah.
I remember the cover.
Yes,
I can see the cover in my head.
You're looking down at your shoes and two pairs of shoes and one of them's translucent. I still remember that cover.
I always remember the cover to Welcome to the Dead House. That was the first of the Goosebumps books.
Yeah, because it's just that it's just a haunted house looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that very iconic because there's a ton with haunted house out there. Not like the puppet ones, which always had that crazy tuxedoed saw puppet guy.
Yeah, that one I never wanted to read because that cover was that kind of disturbing.
Creepy.
Yeah, I had no interest in that one.
It's young Jigsaw before he lost his hair.
Well, the thing is, too, these Goosebumps books, which I'm not going to shit on. I love Goosebumps.
You're totally going to shit on.
Kind of doing it a little bit.
I used to read them religiously. I feel like that's a little bit older of an age range than what our topic of today was, which was kids' books.
Fair enough.
I actually looked up the age range for Goosebumps. It was meant for 8 to 12.
Well, if you're going to go below 8,
and
we're
that's
talking
a child.
5 and younger, I'm going Clifford the Big Red Dog there because you can't go wrong with Clifford.
Well, then I'm going Hungry Caterpillar. That was one of my favorite guys because I could relate to the Hungry Caterpillar. So
are we having an age range now? I feel are we defining children's books?
See, when I was thinking children's book, I was thinking of books that you would have to read to children, or children just first starting out to read. So that's where I was kind of going. Where was your age range?
I was in the lower elementary preschool range.
Okay. That's kind of where I was chilling. Alex, where were you thinking of when you thought of the word children's books?
Kind of under 10, but I'm still thinking between 5 and 10 where you might start reading yourself. You're not being read to necessarily.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. No, I think that we're all I think we all completed the same assignment for once. So, All right, Alex, why don't we start our new format with you?
No.
Why don't you give us your first idea for a children's book?
So for my first idea would have been a choose your own fairy tale, kind of like a choose your own adventure book, but fairy tale edition, where as you're reading the book, there's usually one or two choices, but some of your choices will lead down the classical fairy tale, Disney fairy tale ending. And the other choices may lead you down the traditional fairy tale ending, pre-Disney, a little bit darker, but more crazy. Choose your adventure fairy tale.
Okay.
Disney classic or Grimm fairy tale style. You know,
Okay.
Leave with the prince or get your feet cut off. You know, that's just how it goes. That's reality of those fairy tales that were meant for kids as well.
I can pile first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Alex, your first idea, I will put it in the good ideas pile. I would like to read that book because you get the nice fluffy story, a little bit of drama maybe to it, but then you have the chance or the ability to, if you wish, go to the little darker side to hear the real true story. That's how it starts. Like a lot of times how it starts, it's like those true fairy, like the Grimm's fairy tales. So yeah, I like that idea. I never got that. You didn't really get that opportunity if you read the one story. You never heard the other versions of that story. And it adds a little historical context into it. Kate, what did you think about Alex's idea?
I like it. My only concern is a lot of those Grimm fairy tales are particularly violent and disturbing. So for a younger audience, I can see this being possibly traumatizing. But for an older audience, your 10s, your 12s, I think they would be able to handle it. I would like to see like a choose your own adventure fairy tale story in which the fairy tales kind of get mishmashed. So like you might have been starting off with Cinderella, but then you somehow end up marrying a beast, like kind of thing. No beastie. As a result, I'm going to put this in the ideas pile, leaning towards good. I like the premise, but once again, concerned about the little people getting freaked out.
well, you know, they got to grow up some point.
And maybe they want to get freaked out.
Yeah. I mean, how many of these kids are playing the video games that are violent? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but not when they're that young.
Okay. Well, thanks for your first idea, Alex.
Thanks,
You're very
Alex.
welcome for me giving you your first idea.
Kate, how about you give your first idea?
Okay, my first idea is a children's adventure coupon book. I don't know if you guys have this where you're about, but as a fundraiser idea, you can buy this entertainment guide, which is basically this huge book, like about as thick as a Bible, but smaller. It's not a standard size book, but it's about as thick as a Bible. And it's just full of coupons and free passes and discounts and things like that to places around the area. So I was thinking, well, why can't we do like a children's version of this? And like it would be a bunch of little stories about that place that you're getting a coupon for. So if like the first coupon's for a bowling alley, there could be a little story about adventures in bowling and what to expect when you're bowling, that you got to get your shoes, you got to get the ball, you know, how the game's played. And then at the end of the story, here's a coupon for one free bowling game. And then maybe the next story is about the aquarium, and it's like what to expect going to the aquarium. You're going to see fishes. There'll be other people. It's this big building full of all these different things. And at the end of that story, there's a coupon for 50% off entry to an aquarium, and like so on and so forth. So first idea, children's adventure coupon book. Since Ajax gave her first piling, why don't we go with Alex giving his piling for me?
I would love to give you my piling. So this idea, I'm going to put in the bad ideas pile because it sounds boring. Number one, you're going to the bowling alley with a story? I should be creating memories at the bowling alley.
No. You read the story first.
This is
then you go to the bowling alley. You're not at the bowling alley reading the story.
Well, maybe I did want to read the story at the bowling alley. Did you think about that? I wanted to read the story about how I get my shoes. And then there's a coupon at the end. Who's cut coupons? Cut coupons for old ladies, not for like kids that are just growing up. I mean, if the coupon was for mom and dad and the book was just to keep them occupied on the way there, I understand. But I mean, this sounds just boring. So this is going straight in the bad ideas pile.
Okay,
Ajax,
so
how about your opinion?
Ajax, what do you think about Kate's terrible idea?
I actually put this in the ideas pile, mostly because I was like, this could teach a little bit about economics and like, paying for different things. You got a coupon, so you know that there's a money exchange to get into the bowling alley. So I was like, it could be an interesting learning curve. The things that would probably bother me about the book is that it would be actually tearing it out of the book. I wouldn't want to rip up a book to then, if I wanted to read it again, I'd be like, I ripped that page. Oh man, I ripped that page again because I ripped it.
Well, no,
is the coupon just loose in the book, or is
the coupon would be in the book, but it wouldn't be like on the same page as like another story. It would have like a perforated edge so you can tear it out of the book without destroying the other stories in the book.
I know, but usually when you have those perforated edges, I suck at tearing those out, and I end up tearing the page anyway.
And then you end up tearing the page out. Then you never know how the story about getting your bowling shoes ends.
But I'm excited to hear about the story, and I want to hear about the spray that they use to clean the bowling shoes.
So that spray is very important. That spray is what holds our society together. How we don't all have foot and mouth diseases. That spray is wonderful.
That was what I was curious about. I wanted to see how you incorporated the spray in the shoes. I thought that would have been the selling point to me. And then like how to pick your bowling ball, and then like how heavy is it going to go through the floor? It could go through the floor. Like that could be a different story. Is like my bowling ball went down to China because it went through the earth because it was so heavy. Done.
Well, and then the other thing was I was thinking like chapter 1's bowling, but then maybe chapter 10 is bowling again. And then it's like a continuation of chapter 1. And like now you've been bowling, here are some more tips on how to be a better bowler with another coupon at the end.
It's a lot of coupons.
You should see how thick this coupon book is in real life. Like we could put tons of stories in there.
I know those coupon books, but the thing is I always, you'd order them as like a fundraiser, and then I'd never look at them again. Like you get it once and then
coupons.
It'd be a waste of coupons.
I love those. I use those things. Whenever I had them, I used them all the time.
So you used to hate to love coupons that you never used?
I hated wasting coupons I never used.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, thank you for your ideas.
All right. Ajax, why don't you give us your first idea?
So for my first idea, it's not necessarily a book, but it's more like how people usually read to children. Like usually a teacher sits out of the front of the room, holds a book to a group of kids sitting in front of them. So for this first idea, instead of just having one book for one teacher, I want all of the children to have the same book so they can read along with the teacher. So this might be a smaller class size, but I feel like this, for me, it was always hard for me to see the book that the teacher was holding, and let alone focus on the words, and you couldn't even see the words from that far away. So I wanted to have a story time where everybody gets to hold the story so they can read along with it. So that's my first idea.
All right, I am going to break down your first idea here. I'm going to put this in the ideas pile leaning towards bad, simply because, one, it's not a book, and two, I don't know if it was my school that was just like special, but we kind of did this. If we had like story time outside of our learning curriculum, then the teacher would just kind of show us the book from a distance and what have you. But we had specific times where we would follow along in our textbook with the story. It's not a bad idea, but it doesn't really fit the the topic at hand today, so that's why
It's
I'm
like
saying.
practices. That's basically how to read, because it's an
Yeah,
idea for children's books.
ideas pile leaning towards bad. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I agree, but I wouldn't pussyfoot around like that. I'm just putting it straight in the bad ideas pile because it's not a book idea. It's a reading and demonstration. It's an education idea. And also because my school didn't have enough money to give a book to other people. You rich punks think you're so much better than everybody else. I see how it is. So now I'm just jealous that you guys got even to experience it partially. We were lucky if we got to see the book and it wasn't just a piece of paper that they took a picture of on a Polaroid to show to the class and then maybe read it.
We got Xerox copies sometimes. That was fun.
Yeah, ours were on Scantron. Even wasn't a Scantron test. It was you need to take a copy. You're putting it on Scantron anyways. So we had to read it only using the first 5 letters of the alphabet.
You had 5 vowels on your Scantron? We only had 4.
Well, what the money they spent, they didn't spend on books. They spent on better Scantron.
They invested their money on an extra bubble instead of books for the children.
Now I see where your money went in your school district.
Yeah, better Scantrons.
Which actually lowers the probability of getting higher test rates because there's more chances of getting the question wrong.
Correct. Well, that just means that you're more likely to also, those that are doing well are going to show that versus just sheer chance. All right. But yeah, no, bad ideas. It's not a book. It's not a children's book idea. It's nothing.
Well, Alex, if you feel so strongly about that, then why don't you tell us your second idea?
Yeah.
Sure, I would love to. So for my second idea, I want to have a book that kind of gives a better idea of what it's like to be a grown-up. Because a lot of times when we were kids, we were always thinking, man, I can't wait till I'm older. I can't wait till I, can do X, Y, or Z. I get to stay up all night. I get to live about, I don't have to do what my parents tell me. If I want to eat candy all night, I can. There's that kind of conception when you're a kid that adults get to do all this fun stuff when kids, and they just tell kids they can't. I want a book to kind of give them an idea of both the good and the bad of being an adult in a very, a general sense, but just to kind of give them like, oh, yes, you get to stay up all night if you really want to, but you're not going to feel great the next day. Or yes, you get to have pizza, but you also have to do your taxes, which is kind of sad. But sometimes the taxes have a refund at the end of the year, so you can buy more pizza. It's just to kind of give them to break the illusion of what it means to be an adult, that yes, you can have those fun things, but you also have responsibility as well. So it teaches a dual lesson about what it's like to be an adult. And also the main message should be about enjoying your time as a child, because you don't always get the opportunity to live that way when you're an adult. So I wanted to kind of teach that lesson in the long run. So that's my book idea. What do you guys think?
I don't know if I could read your story more than once if it's about taxes.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this is a one-time read right here. You're like, oh gosh.
It's
enjoy
not a book
your
about
time. It sounds like it's written by an adult here. This story sounds like it's written by an adult.
All books are usually, almost all children's books are still written by adults.
It's very true. We
This
need more
is
children's
true.
books written by children.
Not true.
Totally true, and you know it. It's not written by little hungry caterpillars, that's for sure.
Don't you dare talk about my hungry caterpillar. She's an excellent writer.
Mm-hmm,
Now, I feel like if the book explained why you pay your taxes instead of like, you have to pay your bills, you have to like go to you have to pay your electric bill, you gotta pay
go
all
to work.
your bills, you gotta go to the bank, you gotta go to work. I mean, there are a lot of books based on different jobs.
Of course there are. But they always paint them in this, it's so much fun. They can be fun, but there's times when it's not. And that's okay too. It's just a part of growing up, but it's about both the good and the bad of knowing kind of what to expect in that way, but also to help appreciate what you get to do as well as a kid.
I'll put
that's kind of my idea.
Depending on how it's written, I'll put this because it could be if it's written in a skewed way,
Mhm.
I'll just put this in the ideas pile right now, just
Okay.
because depending on how it's written, it could be written where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be an adult, or I don't want to be a child.
Well, it's not
Or
meant to be written like that. It's not meant to be depressing. Let's put it this way. It's not meant to be depressing. It's meant to be an explanation of what it's like to be an adult. But like I said, there's good things, there's bad things, just like it's life.
put
You
it
know,
in the
and
ideas
also
pile right now. Yeah, okay.
That's fine.
That's an idea.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Even if you're wrong. But you know.
I kind of have to piggyback off of Ajax here. This is going in the ideas pile for me. I get the intention,
Mhm.
and I like the idea of like, hey, this is the reason we can't buy all of your toys, and this is the reason we can't have ice cream for dinner. But on the flip side, like when you're a kid, like that's like the coolest thing you want to be as an adult. And if you were to tell me as a child at 7 years old, like, Kate, there's going to be a time you're struggling to pay rent and you got to do taxes and you're going to have to listen to someone who pays you and you're going to have to deal with, bad things, a lot of bad things, and you're going to have to just deal with it and handle it. Me as a child would be like, wow, I have nothing to look forward to as an adult.
Well,
now.
you make it sound real depressing.
It's like it could be really depressing, but this is where I want to take your idea and kind of twist it.
No, don't twist my ideas.
Because you are explaining a lot of things that adults have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a period of time in children's development where you have kids that will ask why. Just over and over. Why? Why do we have to go to school? Why do we have to walk? Why do I have to go to bed at 8 a.m., 8 a.m., 8 p.m.? Why can't I watch this? Why? And this would be like a good book to be like, well, this is why. And like, engage in the like, critical thinking answers with the kid. Like, well, the reason why we can't go to the amusement park every day is, here's, how much amusement parks cost, and mommy and daddy, or mommy and mommy, or daddy and daddy, or just I have to take care of those costs. And, mommy only gets so much money every month. And so mommy has to make a budget. And then by the time you say budget, the kid's going to be like, well, why is there a budget? Then you can explain that.
Then you get a copy of your bank statement.
Yeah.
And then you bring that
and your tax returns. Put it on the refrigerator. Be like, this is what mommy has to pay to the government.
What's the government?
Well, mommy's going to read you this encyclopedia-sized book about what government is and why we have it and why it works and why it doesn't and, what we can do. And then you're going to have a little activist on your hands. And then, maybe your child will change the world one day.
Maybe.
But ideas.
It's a lot of effort.
It is a lot of effort.
Yeah. You're putting a lot of work into your children.
All right. So let's move on to my next idea. One of the things as a child, I was a very fearful child, not because I wasn't like abused or anything. It's not like, oh, it's my dad coming to beat the shit out of me. And I was just a very fearful, not skitsy, but like easily startled child. So thinking of that, I kind of want to have a book of for small children, like what to do when you're scared. Things like recognizing that you are scared, that these feelings you're feeling are normal, and the reason why you're feeling like this, and how to handle what to do when you're scared. And have little scenarios like what to do when you're scared, in public, what to do if you're scared at home, what to do when you're scared alone, and start instilling some normalization of recognizing your feelings and how to respond to your feelings at a young age. But yeah, that's my second idea for a children's book. What to do when you're scared.
Honestly, I like this idea because sometimes you have those moments when you don't know what to do, or if you don't have a parent nearby, mommy or daddy are at work and you get scared of something. How do you calm yourself down? Obviously your first instinct when you're that age is to go find mom or dad, but sometimes they're not there. for one reason or another. We're not saying they're not in your lives or present. It's just they may not be there at the moment. It could be only they're in the other room. It could be they're outside talking to a neighbor. But it's helping with creating a potential for coping mechanisms in those fearful moments. So I'm going to put in the ideas going towards good. I wish it was a little bit more developed of an idea, but not a bad idea at all. What about you, Ajax? What do you think about it?
I think this could be a good idea. I'll put it in the good ideas pile, just because I really, as a child, I don't think I was scared of many things. The biggest fear that I had was vampires. And how I dealt with that was I slept with stuffed animals around my neck so they couldn't get to my neck when I was sleeping. So basically that's how I solved that one. So I can add that to the Scared Tactics book because that's how I got through that day. Also, if you go to bed and you eat some garlic salt before you go to bed too, that might help keep the vampires away. That was also something I did. And I never found any bites on my neck. So I would add those to your book.
Yeah, as prevention.
Yeah, vampire prevention.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was afraid of being swallowed by a boa constrictor. So I would stuff the crack. My bed was against the wall, and I was afraid that the boa constrictor would come up against the wall between my bed and the wall. So I'd line the crack with stuffed animals, and then I would have stuffed animals around the other side of the open side of the bed. So I also had stuffed animal prevention and animals.
See, my parents had this troll thing, like a statue of a troll about yay big, with his big bulbous nose, big old eyes, hair, like half like hairless, half hair on its head and its tail. And it terrified the crap out of me. And of course, when we first lived in our first apartment, they kept it in a glass cabinet with my mother's belt collection on the bottom shelf. They made it so where my bed was in my room, because I usually have my door open in my bedroom, but my bed was in the one far end of the room, and where my head was for the pillow would be a straight eye shot to where that thing was. So it would stare at me all night, and I'd just be terrified all night. The only thing that calmed me down was my cat, because he was my like he would be on the bed with me, because there was a movie about little troll-like monsters that used to attack people, and the boy in the movie had a cat that protected him. I think it's called Cat's Eyes, something along those lines. But
your cat protected you.
In my mind, it did. Took a long time to get over that too.
As a fully grown woman, I can honestly say if that statue was in my house, I would also be terrified of it. So I don't feel like that's a baseless fear that you had as a small child.
Yeah,
I had a clown statue thing in my room too, so I would always face it the other way. I'd always just turn it around because it was always staring at me. I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I would just turn around like everything's okay then. So yeah, good idea.
Yay, Jax, why don't you give us your second idea?
My second idea. So a lot of books, like for children, at least of the younger age, they don't necessarily know how to read yet. And it's really hard sometimes when they're like, hey, mom, read me a story. Hey, dad, read me a story. Hey, whoever, read me this story right here. And then the parent's busy and they're like, we can do it later. But if you want to read that story right then and there, I was thinking of a tool that could be used, which might exist. I don't know. But sort of like a keypad that you can type in the words that will say the word out loud. So if it's like THE, you can write THE that you read on the page and the device would say the. So you'd be able to read the story by letter association and then typing it in and having a device to auditorily say the word. So then you'd have some sense of what the book was saying without the need or assistance of an adult or somebody who knew how to read. So not like a computer device or just something that a kid that's like tough and heavy duty that can be carried around, that can get bopped and banged around, that won't get too destroyed, because kids are brutal when it comes to everything. So I was like almost like an I can read device that where you don't need the aid of assistance of a reader. That's my second idea.
I'm going to go on this one. I'm going to put this in the ideas pile. I think that's either a spell and say or speak and spell. I think that device already does exist. I'm pretty sure about that. And when you were first talking and you're like, oh, when the parents are too busy and they can't always read to their children, it made me think of, oh my God, is she going to reinvent Teddy Ruxpin?
Yes.
But you did not. You instead reinvented the speak and spell or the spell and say device. So ideas, it's a good idea, but it does exist. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's not a bad idea. It is a good tool. But again, it really reiterates what Kate says, honestly. It's like it kind of already exists. Plus, it's not a book idea. So it's not a book. It's a tool. But it's not
tool to go along with the book so a kid can help read the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, still not quite. So that's why I'm going to give it ideas going towards bad, because it's not exactly a book, but it's not a bad idea, again.
Okay.
Also, sexy troll statue.
Everybody's climbing on the sexy troll.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Thanks a lot. All right, Alex, on to your third idea.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So, as we all know, kids can be pretty mischievous, but their mischievousness can sometimes not be too creative, sometimes gets a little destructive, and sometimes we need to give them tools to help them out with these behaviors. So, what I propose to make a book of is a book that helps kids learn to dispose of the bodies that they create from their mischievous activities. So again, it's all about what do you do in the event that the person you prank happens to stop breathing. So it's really about helping the kids, those no good rotten kids, get out of trouble. So yes, it's how to dispose of bodies for kids.
Ajax, go ahead. You take this one.
Just because I didn't really understand your description until you said how to dispose of bodies for kids.
It's because when the kids, they throw slingshots and rocks at people, because they're those darn kids, those darn whippersnappers. Sometimes they throw bigger rocks, and then sometimes they get knocked out. And sometimes the kids don't want to get in trouble and they don't know what to do. So this is like a how-to guide for the kids to help stay out of trouble, so they don't get caught.
How-to guide. I mean, it might be creative.
That's one way to put it.
As a kid, I would probably read it, be like, I want to see how to stay out of trouble.
Lots of colorful pictures.
For ages 2 to 6.
Yeah, it teaches you how about like where in the world you are, what's the best methods, how do you lift heavy loads, like parts just like using simple tools so you can lift heavier objects than you're used to lifting with your tiny small arms.
Well, I feel like this also is like the daring book for boys, or like the daring book for girls. I feel like there are some books like this that are not necessarily trying to be mischievous, and also
this isn't about being mischievous. It's to help you get out of trouble or prevent you getting in trouble when you do something extra mischievous.
I don't know if this book is going to sell very much, because the parents might not buy this for the kids. So most likely I'll put this in the bad ideas pile, just because the kids, they might not even, this book never make it off the shelves.
That's why you just got to change the title.
Buy it because it'll give them ideas.
Well, it only should have given ideas about how to not get into trouble.
I'll have to read it first. So now it's going in the bad ideas pile.
The title
you have to read it first?
Yeah, to see if it's a good idea.
I don't know why it's taking this long for you to say it's a bad idea.
I know. I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to see
this is a bad idea.
But it says I want to see the illustrations for this. I mean, like how gory is this
for
going to be?
Children's
gory. Who says it's going to be gory?
I mean, I can read it. I can read it. I could just see like people like throwing rocks at people. as a picture of like
Yeah,
that, and like, you know, blood gushing down
No,
the
there should be
side.
zero blood in this. Zero
How is
blood.
there zero blood in a book about disposing bodies? You're
What do you
ill
mean?
preparing these children
Have you
for the
never
reality of
There has to be
disposing of
reality in
bodies.
here.
Have you never seen a Looney Tunes cartoons? They'll do tons of things, not a drop of blood would spill
But
out.
you're giving instructions to children on how to dispose of bodies, and you're not
yeah,
going to
yeah.
include realistic photos. They're not going to know how to do that then without
Look,
the real
Yeah.
pictures.
Well, that's what
I mean, why are we even discussing this?
Is
This
it
is
like
bad.
blood be like squirting
This is a
out?
bad
I feel
idea.
like it has to be realistic
bad.
here.
Or if you do that, you put a little arrow that says fruit punch.
Listen, as a children's book,
Cherry
this
Kool-Aid.
this is a bad ideas
Oh.
pile. Yeah, right into bad ideas. However, if this were a parody children's book,
No.
I could see this doing well in the adult
No.
realm of
No.
books. Yes. But as a children's book, straight into the bad ideas pile.
You just don't understand the kids nowadays.
I don't. And if they're like this, I'm glad I don't have any. I'd be sleeping with one eye open.
All right.
Which let's get off of killing and move on to let's go to my
Else?
third idea. Yeah. My next idea is kind of similar to the what to do when you're scared book. I've entitled this It's Okay to Feel. This book is about feelings and that it's okay to feel feelings, because I don't know about you two, but growing up, it wasn't uncommon to hear, not necessarily from my parents, but from other parents and from other parents, you know, telling their children, you know, stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, or, you know, get that look off your face. And children, they don't really know how to express their feelings other than with crying, with upset faces. They're not, you know, adults, we can kind of school ourselves and not display our emotions on our face, but for children, that's how they communicate with us. We need to be able to, like, I can visibly see you're upset. I'm going to engage with this child to see why they're upset. Are they hurt? Did someone make fun of them? Are they being bullied? Did they break something? Like, there's reasons why kids are displaying these emotions. So this book is about it's okay to feel angry and things you can do when you feel these feelings. So if you are angry, how to channel that anger. It's not okay to kick the cat, but it's okay to say, you know, you're angry and go off by yourself, or, you know, kick a pillow. So yeah, it's okay to feel is my third idea.
It's okay to feel. Personally, just like kick a pillow.
All right.
That's what I would call the book.
Mm-hmm. So, Kate, I don't know what you're talking about. This sure seems to really lead into my previous idea, but we won't get into that. You know, if this book doesn't work out, you might need my book. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But we're not here to talk about my previous idea. We're here to talk
This
about
is
yours.
prevention for your book.
Correct. My job wasn't prevention. My job was cleanup. That was what my book was about. But nonetheless, this is about prevention. And again, it's okay to feel. It's okay to have emotions, which it's a good idea. But kids usually are pretty much have their emotions on their sleeve for the most part. I mean, you do have the kids that if they have maybe parents that aren't supportive of them sometimes, they may need something like this to help them, but you may not be in that environment in the first place. So again, it's not a bad idea, but it's hard to say, like, unless you're like a counselor working with a child and then giving them this book, or if there's a kid that has a hard time expressing themselves because they're in a certain situation, not because they don't have loving parents, but maybe they're in a situation where they feel like they can't express themselves. So again, I think it's a pretty good idea. So I'm going to put this in the ideas going towards good, because again, it doesn't fit every kid, but I still think it's really got a good place. I think it really has its purposes, and I think it'd be something worthwhile.
This book was definitely for, like, you can have very healthy home life and a child could still use this book.
Absolutely.
But did you ever see the Saturday Night Live skit? It was like a wishing well for introverted children, or the gazebo for introverted children, where the kid would just go and sit at the well and ponder thoughts. And If you have a
Nope.
chance, see it.
No
like
idea.
this is what this book is for, is that kid who rather sit by a well and contemplate life than go play kickball.
But
That's
you
all right.
can still sit by a well and play kickball too.
It's not safe. That's not safe. We don't condone unsafe
You can
behaviors
kick the
here.
ball into the well
Well, then why would you put a dirty ball into your water supply?
because it'd be fun.
Remind me to never invite you to my well.
All right. So for your idea, Kate, of it's okay to feel, I mean, I'll put that in the good ideas pile. It is okay to feel. Yes,
And
it is.
sometimes as adults, we have to also remember it's okay to feel.
It's okay
Feelings
to
are
feel.
there for a reason. We should acknowledge them and deal with them accordingly.
Thank you, Kate.
Anytime. Ajax, why don't you take us to your third idea?
My third idea just came from Alex's third idea of cleaning up. But this time it's just like cleaning up messes around the house, cleaning up after you're done a job. As an adult, I've realized that a lot of people don't focus on the cleaning up aspect of anything. And I really enjoy cleaning up sometimes just because it's a clean slate. Everything is set in place. So having a book where cleaning up is not necessarily a chore that you have to do, or it could be fun as well. The fun of cleaning up. That's my idea right here. Thank you, Alex. And it doesn't have to be of cleaning up of bodies after they've been mutilated, but cleaning up after you're done the activity you just did. That's my idea.
Yeah, I'm going to put this right in the good ideas pile. I need this book. I have a problem with cleaning up after myself. The audience can't see this, but if I were to turn my camera around, you would just see a complete mess of my living room. I could definitely use this book. So good for children, good for adults. So good ideas. Alex, your thoughts?
I'm going to put this in the ideas pile because cleaning up after yourself is not fun. There is merit to it. It can be very rewarding when you have a nice clean room. But as a child, I hated cleaning. As an adult, I still kind of hate cleaning, but I do like the feeling after it's done and how clean everything is. So the reward aspect is still definitely something special. But can I ever get a kid to read about why it's fun to clean unless he has or she has that personality already? Probably not. So ideas pile for me.
Thank you, Alex.
Alex,
Yes.
would you please tell us your fourth idea?
I would be delighted to, in fact. So as we all know, we are well into like the month 19 of the pandemic of COVID-19. 19 of COVID-19, one might say. And like many people, some of us got to spend a lot of time at home, and some of us developed certain habits, such as drinking alcohol. And a lot of times also during this time, the kids were home because it was remote learning. So my idea is all about my kid's first mixology book. So it's about helping my child learn how to make mommy and daddy a nice adult beverage. You know, whether it's the classics like a good old fashioned, maybe a mojito, maybe just a tequila sunrise, one of my personal favorites, stuff that's easy. Maybe something a little bit more exotic, maybe a frozen margarita. But, you know, you've got these kids with this free time. And while mommy and daddy have to work from their computers at home, maybe little Johnny can get them a nice, refreshing beverage to help them make it through the day. Even if it's just pouring a frosty cold brewski into a glass, just to, because they know mom and dad are having a bad day at work. You know, they're really helping out. And this book helps them learn how to do it right. And not to mention, teaches them a valuable life skill. If they like to do it, maybe they can make a career out of it. So it can be fun, educational, and building on their future. What do you guys think?
How is this going to be written for a child?
Very colorful, like a lot of pictures. The instructions can be what kind of ingredients to use, what tools to use, and which one goes in first. Because a lot of times you're doing like the jiggers So you do one jigger, two jiggers right next to each other. So it can be really easy to follow. So you don't even have to really measure. You kind of eyeball it. It'll be fun.
So I'm just going to go straight in the bad ideas pile.
Why?
Because you've got to help the kid do it. If they're a young kid, they got to pick up the bottle and there's going to be alcohol spilled everywhere. And you're wasting a lot of product.
True. And
so,
you know,
like, I don't
point.
trust them to, I mean, you'd have to get special alcohol bottles for these kids.
Yes. That's an amazing idea. I love that idea for this. Like having littler, smaller versions of the bottle. You know, they make those obviously at the bartender shop. They have the little tiny versions. That's like perfect kid size. Oh my God, you're solving all the world's problems.
Solved all the problems. Still going in the bad ideas pile because like the underage drinking thing. Because like, you know, they're going to want to taste it.
Oh, they
and
better
especially
not.
if they're in
That's
another
illegal.
room. It's illegal. But they might read your other book of how to get by without getting in trouble. And they would be like, aha, I can still hide this and be like, oh, here, Mom. Here. I made this drink for you. And they'd be like, oh. And they're just hard at work and they're slaving over the computer. And they don't even notice that their kid's already drunk. So and then we're going to raise another generation of pre-drunken kids that's not going to be making it to the adult age, most likely. Actually, this might help with our population problem.
Yeah.
I've still got in the bad ideas pile for now, but we'll see what happens.
I'm surprised Ajax threw this in the bad ideas pile since she is a mixologist herself. So I found that funny that you weren't supporting fellow mixologists.
I wonder if it's because she's worried about the kids stealing her jobs.
Competition.
Yeah, also messy alcohol. It's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I, too, also have to put this in the bad ideas pile, which is against what Emily Gilmore would say, which you're never too young to learn how to mix a martini. Exactly. But I have similar issues with wasting alcohol. Kids spill shit. They have horrible dexterity. Have you seen their finger paintings? Have you seen their macaroni drawings? I don't want to trust those hands in making my drink. So bad idea.
They can't even hold the lid on the shaker when they're shaking.
No, you'll be cleaning up messes. You're going to need Ajax's mess book, and then they're going to revolt against that, end up killing their parents by accident, and then you're going to have the body disposal book. And then, it's a lot of reading at least. So they can, at least when they go to jail, they can read about their legal rights and try to get off on a technicality. But that's a lot of mess just for a drink.
And also that would have used my first book, How to Be a Grown Up, or the second book, How to Be a Grown Up.
Yeah.
Because, you had to know how to get a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. How does mommy and daddy get a lawyer? So let's flip this onto a more serious note. So for my next idea for a book is really dark, but I think it would be useful. And I've entitled it, What to Do When Your Parents Are Sick. I feel like when bad things happen to parents and they're unexpected, it's not that children can't handle it or children don't want to handle it. They just don't know how to handle it. And that feeling of unknown is a huge source of anxiety and other behavioral issues because you don't understand what's happening. Why is mommy not getting out of bed? Why is daddy throwing up? Why can't I go play? Why is everybody sad around me? All these things. So I feel like kids like having tasks and like having goals and like having things to do, so to speak. So when something bad happens, everybody wants to protect the kid, but then the kid doesn't know what to do. This is kind of like a what to do when someone you love is sick. So that's my idea. We are going highs and lows with these ideas. Like, whew, the spectrum of these ideas are wild. But Alex, why don't you give us your 2 cents on that idea?
Why don't I give you 3 cents? A little extra tip there. So it's a good idea because it's good to deal with, like, it helps kids deal with, I guess. I'm very much on the fence with this right now. Because, like you said, it helps kids that may be coping with parents that may have cancer or chronically ill, and they can't do, I could see if it was like, why can't I play with my mom or dad? Because they're not feeling well. Like almost like why is this happening, and what can you do, what can't you do? I could see that being very helpful. So I'm gonna put this in the good ideas pile, because I think it is a good idea, but it's very specialized. It's very much for kids in certain situations. It may not be the one you're given to everybody. It's not like the parents have a cold in this situation. This feels like it's something where it's a little bit more long term, and maybe something they don't understand why it's happening, kind of thing. It's not like mommy, daddy fell off a bridge and broke their leg. We're talking, other stuff.
It could have different chapters for different kind of situations. Because yeah, you're right. There's when mommy and daddy have a cold, that's different than when mommy and daddy have a flu, when mommy and daddy have stage 4 cancer, when mommy doesn't want to play because she has a migraine. Like everybody wants to protect kids, but the worst thing is like keeping kids in the dark, because then there's the unknown, and then when bad things happen, they don't understand why they happened, and there's all this regret and stuff. And was it because I was being a bad kid? Was I being too noisy and that's why mommy died? Like, we need to explain these things and in a way that isn't scary and gives the kids some kind of feeling that they can do something.
I can totally see like mom laying in bed, like, Mom, can you come play with me? Go read chapter 4.
I was hoping there was a chapter for like when mommy's asleep after Uncle Ronaldo comes over after daddy goes to work.
That's in the Ideas After Dark version of this
Uncle
one.
Ronaldo.
To be honest, I had another idea that I scrapped, but it was gonna be called "Why's Mommy Crying?" and I thought that was a little much.
Oh, man, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. So Ajax, what did you think about this?
I'll put this in the ideas pile, leans where it's good. Like, just because I like, if there's a parent not feeling well, I want to see them. I want to hear them go. I can't talk right now. It's between chapters 3 and 7. It's one of those two. I can't figure out what it is, but you read about it and then WebMD me. Okay, thanks.
Mommy has cramps. Go visit chapter 4, page 22. Go get me a hot bottle and some Midol.
Is this like a first
Go make mommy
situation?
a Cosmo.
Go get baby mixology.
Mommy has hysteria. Go find her wandering uterus. That's page 264.
Where's your uterus? Where is it wandering?
There's a book idea. Where's my uterus?
No.
My uterus is missing.
No.
Mrs. Uterus is missing.
Oh, Mrs. Uterus.
Ajax, why don't you give us your 4th idea?
Okay, my 4th idea is pretty much just entitled A Walk in the Woods.
You said a walk in the wood?
The woods.
Okay, that's why I was like, one wood?
No, the woods are the forest. Like, taking a walk in the
okay, I thought you said a
forest.
I thought you said a walk in the wood, and I'm like, just the singular wood, or like?
No, the woods.
Woods. My apologies.
With plural. The forest.
Plural wood.
This could actually be in any type of biome. It doesn't have to be forest. It could be a walk through the meadow. It could be a walk through all these things. But it's basically walking through desert. It could be a walk through a specific habitat where you're encountering
Death
a
Valley.
walk into nature.
It could be a series of books. And the series could be a walk through nature, and then each different area.
Where I want to focus on is just identification and looking at different species of trees, different types of animals, and identifying those and like what are the things that make it that creature, be it plant, animal, fungi, whatever. A lot of times now I talk to people and a lot of them don't really know the difference between a maple and an oak. And its identification skills can be the difference between touching regular English ivy and poison ivy. So there are a lot of these things that can be taught and a lot of the lessons that you can teach these things through a story. So that's my fourth idea.
I can't say many bad things about this idea. I think it's a good idea. As a child, I've run into many things in nature that I wasn't aware of that left me itchy. So being able to identify things in nature, that's always helpful, especially since I grew up in the city, but I had family in the sticks. So yeah, no, good idea.
When you first started this idea, for some reason, I was thinking that A Walk in the Woods is about what happens when mommy and daddy bring you to the woods and drive away. I don't know.
That's like the topic that we'd be going into after what happens, and that will need Kate's book of what happens when you're left in the woods. Why did they do it?
Why did they leave you in the woods?
How to survive in the woods. A child's guide to survival.
Why do you need to survive in the woods? Why do they leave you here?
Yeah. So,
what do you do when you're sad? Chapter 13. Your parents have left you on the side of the road. How to build a fire.
Yeah. All right. But in terms of your actual book idea, I'm going to put this in the ideas going towards bad. Not because it's not useful. It's just because it's nerdy, and nerds are for nerds. Already falling asleep just thinking about it. It's a plant. It's green. And that's about all I need to know.
Thanks, Alex.
Hey, you're very welcome. I would have preferred you just talk about how to leave kids in the woods. That's all I'm saying.
That's the other book. That's chapter 563.
Yeah.
Turn to that page. You're next.
All right. I'll move on to my fifth idea, which, strange enough, is very somewhat similar to Kate's last idea, actually. What to do in certain situations. But this one's a bit more specific. This is more about for when kids have parents that aren't getting along, when parents are getting divorced. It's an unfortunate situation, but it's the reality of the world we live in. And sometimes it may help to go through some of the reasons why mommy and daddy are arguing all the time, or why mommy or daddy, one of them might be moving out of the house. I personally, my parents had a situation when they were separated at one point, which I was too young to understand. I didn't really realize it. I was still too young. They are fine. They've been still married and married for years, but it is one of those things where that's the kind of thing that would really, it might help out with coping with the situation. And ultimately, what it's really about is, helping kids, one, understand why mommy and daddy aren't getting along, but also to understand that it is probably their fault that they're fighting and might be like moving out. So, yeah, that's my idea.
Maybe it can help you get to figure out who do you want to live with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, that's when they go to your book idea and they're living in the woods.
I like it how we've connected all of our book ideas.
It is. It's very important.
It's like one big story.
It is.
I have changed the name of your book, Alex, to It's Your Fault We Fight.
Mm-hmm. It's important the kids know about that.
All right, so I'll pile first. I will put this in the good ideas pile because I feel like there's a lot of instances where this may happen. And, parents may not stick together. And that's very commonplace and easy to do to separate nowadays. Like, it's cheap to do and it happens. So it's a good idea to have a book on it, especially if it's happening in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it doesn't happen in your family, you can be prepared for it, especially before you get left in the woods.
Very true. Very true.
I'm going to put this, I can't believe I'm saying this, in the ideas pile because, parents do fight. There are divorces. The reason it's leaning towards the bad ideas pile, you're not giving any solutions to the problem. So it's the kid's fault, but then how does the kid make it better? None of that.
You can't.
Or like how to cope with it being your fault. Like, you didn't ask to be born, would have been helpful, stuff like that. But
you're a terrible person.
Yeah, I am. I know.
You can't believe you would say that about those poor innocent children.
All the children.
She did.
I would never insinuate that.
Never. Let's go to my fifth idea. I want to redo Country Mouse, City Mouse, or City Mouse, Country Mouse, It was a story about two mice, like some mouse visits the other mouse in the city or the country, and it's about the differences between city life and country life. Growing up, I was in a parochial elementary school. So basically, just kids like me, same kind of economical status, working class kids, same race, same religious background. I didn't have a lot of culture or a lot of diversity when I was in elementary school. Then I went to a public high school, and that's where I really got a better global understanding of, cultures and diversity and getting appreciation of that. I would like to see that more so in a kid's book. Like, kids are very much focused on themselves. That's just how they develop. It's very much their own little bubble in their own little world. It would be nice to have them kind of see that it's not like this everywhere. Your household is not like everybody else's household. There are differences, there are changes, there are different experiences. Some of them aren't bad, some of them aren't good. It's just different for different sakes. So I kind of want to revisit that with the country mouse, city mouse, and really get children a better understanding of the world in whole instead of just their small little bubble and their little community that they are in. So that's my idea number 5.
Is it sort of like the American Doll girl, like the different stories with the different American dolls?
I don't know much about American Doll, so I don't know. But
it goes into like different nationalities and stuff like that, like different practices.
Not even practices,
cultures.
just like not even like practices and cultures. Like I grew up in like a twin in a residential area where my neighbors were right next to me. That's totally different than, where other people lived, where there were single homes and your nearest neighbor's a mile away. I can walk to the corner store. I don't need to drive, just normal little differences that I think a lot of like TV shows and a lot of more adult shows, you see those differences, but not so much with kids shows. So it would be nice to like have that representation, and for this book would have that kind of representation. So it's not like learning about all the different cultures, but just learning about like, this is what the city is like. There's some parts of the city where everybody's together. There's some part of the city where you have a yard. Then there's the country where people take the bus to school. That's like a thing in Europe. They don't have yellow school buses. So whenever they see our movies with the yellow school bus, they just thought that was like a thing we did in movies, that it didn't actually happen in real life. But yeah, we actually have yellow school buses.
We do?
Yeah. So for all of our European listeners, yes, yellow school buses exist. I always get stuck behind them going to work. Today. So yeah, fun. But yeah, so that's my idea. Alex, why don't you give your rundown on my idea?
Okay. So your diverse mouse book, I'm going to put this in the ideas pile because I feel like when a kid's doing this as a way of learning about diversity, he's going to think other kids are actually mice. So he's going to think, am I a mouse and I don't know it? What is a mouse? Am I a country mouse because I take the bus to work, to school, but it's not a real bus and it's not the magic school bus either. So, I think a kid's going to get very confused, just like I'm getting confused with this. And I'm not even a kid, but I'm going to have to put this in the ideas pile because, I'm not a mouse. I don't understand
that. I respect that decision. You're not a mouse.
Yeah.
You're a man.
I will pile next. So I put this one actually ideas pile leaning towards good, just because I'm curious, because if it is mouse size, I really enjoy it when everything's in the mouse point of view, where everything is like big. Like if the school bus is really big and they're hiding behind, they're like under the seats and going into people's lunches, riding inside backpacks and like that. That's I want everything to be mouse size, and the mouse is in the big person world. And I think I would like to at least look at the pictures in that book. So I put that in the ideas pile leaning towards good.
Thank you, Ajax.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you do your 5th idea?
So for my fifth idea, the book is entitled Whose Scat Is That? And it's a book about animal poop, because there's already lots of books about poop, and there's a book called Everybody Poops, but they don't really get into all the different kinds of poop that are out there. There's lots of poop to like learn about and also see and know what animal could be in your backyard. Is it tiny poops? Is it a long poop? It could be a fox. It could be a cat too. You don't know. But that's what little topics will be covered in the book. Whose scat is that? It's my last idea. Bye.
For someone who does a lot of shit and talks a lot of shit, I like this book. So yeah, I'm going to put it in the good ideas pile. I think that's useful information, especially if you're a child who has been abandoned on the side of the road from their parents and you see bear scat, you know, whoa, I need to get out of here because it's not safe for me here and I'm sad and I'm acknowledging that I'm feeling sad.
So I read my feel, it's okay to feel book.
Yeah. So yeah, good ideas.
For my piling, well, my first thought is this kind of ideas, it's kind of shitty, to be perfectly honest.
It is. It's very shitty.
But in terms of my pilings for it, I'm going to do ideas going towards bad.
Of course.
It's not in the full bad ideas pile because there is an educational part that could be helpful to a degree, but it still involves poop. And kids may not understand that poop has diseases, potentially. There are worms, there are parasites, there's all sorts of things. They might start smelling it, putting in their hands, you know, trying to sing weird songs with it.
I usually just poke it with a stick.
That could be too, and that's still one possibility. Or again, that means if it's warm, that means there's an animal nearby. If they're starting to inspect poop that's warm, then the bear comes out and eats them. Whose fault is that? It's the one who wrote the book.
Good job, Ajax, getting children killed.
Yeah, way to go.
Well, if it's killed by another kid, they can just read about, you know, how to
Body
dispose of the
disposal.
body.
Exactly. It
So-
always brings back to the body disposal.
Speaking of body disposal, Alex, why don't you give us your last idea?
Cool. All right. So for my last idea, and I think it's the most important one, it's about teaching kids how to say, off my goddamn lawn, you with your little feet and your boots and making a track in the mud all over it. I'm just not having that shit. I literally want this book just to be a picture of my house with a no trespassing sign or like a pop-up of, you know, Clint Eastwood with a gun saying, stay off my lawn. That's all I want. That's it. That's all it is.
That's the whole
It
story.
can literally just be one page. That's it. I just want the kids to stay off my goddamn lawn. You know how long it takes me to get that thing taken care of?
10 minutes.
Like half an hour.
Ajax, what is your piling of Alex
My
ideas?
piling is that there's very little story element to it. I wanted a story of this. This is just a sentence. It's just getting off my lawn. So for that, I'm just gonna put in the ideas pile because it's an idea.
I'm going to put this in the ideas pile leaning towards good because it does teach kids a sense of like respecting boundaries and other people's property. So I think those are good lessons to learn. So get off my damn lawn is probably a way to teach them that. Now, there's probably a better way of teaching them that, but that's why it's an idea leaning towards good. And speaking of teaching people good ideas, we should probably thank our listeners.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us again for the first episode of season 3.
Woo!
Yes.
Don't be afraid to tell your friends or your friends' friends or that friend that you kind of talk to, but you don't really talk to because they're kind of that, you know, you're not really sure about them yet. Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
Smell like chicken noodles.
Yeah, but it gives you a topic to talk about without avoiding that, you know, that soup smell. You know, what
you can talk about it from afar.
Yeah. Or avoid that awkward silence so they don't start talking about their like photos of their cats or something.
Yeah. But when you do talk to that friend, you can tell them you can find us at Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, Anchor, Stitcher, wherever you can find podcasts. You should be able to find us. If you can't find us, please let us know at ideasaldaypodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel with playlists. And we're on Instagram at Ideas All Day Podcast. If you have an idea for an upcoming episode, you can let us know at ideasaldaypodcast@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a special guest, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Read a book. Read a book.
Reading leads to better reading.
Book a read.
Reading is fundamental.
Reading's for nerds.
Read a book. Be a nerd.
Bad idea. Nerd.
Bye.